What we want to lose fat and we want to maintain our muscle. And in order to achieve that, it's about doing things like exercise, whether that's strength training or Pilates or yoga. I mean, it can also, I think cardio type stuff like running is more for your heart. It's less for your making your body look a certain way. But doing those types of activities, it's eating high protein and it's thinking about if I'm going to try to lose fat, supplementing with something like essential amino acids in that period. And then you can really change your body.
Hello and welcome back. Today we are talking about protein, my favorite topic right now. I love that through the course of my life, I have focused on each individual macro in their own right to overcome the misconceptions I had around that macro. We did the fat thing. I feel so comfortable eating fat. I know how nourishing it is to my body. We did the carbohydrate thing when we did all the juicing many, many years ago. And now we're into the protein thing, truly understanding what protein does for our bodies and a huge misconception around protein. And I feel like all of us need this reprogramming from each individual macro so that we can develop the macro balance that works best for us. And now myself personally, I'm kind of doing an even macro split at this point, keeping macros pretty balanced across my fats, protein, and carbohydrates. Whereas with the ketogenic diet, it was more fat focused. And with more of the vegan diet, it was more carbohydrate focused. So it's fun to see this progression. And whether you land on more of the vegan diet to the keto diet to a macro balanced approach, understanding the benefits of protein in addition to each individual macro is so key. Protein is really the way forward for so many of the goals that I hear women share over and over and over again in my one-on-ones, the same things. And so we're going to be talking about fat loss without muscle loss, improving physical training outcomes, maintaining muscle and functional fitness with aging. These three things I hear time and time and time again. So we're going to be covering protein, the misconceptions. And if you want to go a little bit deeper or even have an intro to this kind of conversation around protein, another great episode to listen to is episode 446 that launched on the show November 7th, 2023, if you're looking for more on this topic. Now, today we're going to be talking a lot about essential amino acids, or EAAs, as they're commonly referred to, and the continued growth that we've seen in the popularity since sharing that episode. We're going to be considering the growing interest of the conversation on essential amino acids versus BCAAs and just the supplemental protein industry. Now, myself personally, I do rely on a little bit of protein powder throughout the week, but I really try my very hardest to focus solely on whole food proteins with a mixture of EAAs or essential amino acids mixed into my day, generally before and during my workouts. Now, we know that EAAs are up to 6 times more effective than protein powder. So if you're trying to figure out, okay, how do I bring in more protein other than whole food sources for just the convenience factor and the performance factor? Essential amino acids have really replaced a lot of my protein dependence. Now, my personal favorite essential amino acid is from Keon. They have 8 times more essential amino acids than whole foods. And so we're going to be talking about what that means, what that does for you, and the absolute essential thing, which is to continue to eat the whole food. If you follow me on Instagram at Leanne Vogel, every couple of weeks I share what it looks like, a day in the life of what I'm eating, and you're going to notice that all of it is whole food. In fact, a little story time here, and it's kind of a vulnerable moment. I was on Instagram a couple of days ago, and I follow a lot of fit influencers, and many of them share what I ate in a day. And there's nothing more unsettling than seeing how little these individuals eat and how sad looking their plates are. It's just, there's no color. There's protein powders and supplements, and it just looks like dead food. And though their bodies might look fit and healthy, I've not personally worked with an individual that ate like that. in my 16 years in this industry and had all the markers come back beautifully. My goal is to use whole food as the fuel that does 95% of everything in my life. Now, there is that 5%, I think, that comes to supplements. And then a bigger scope is understanding the root causes that might be standing in your way. And this is really what the Healthful Pursuit podcast is all about. So when it comes to the essential amino acid conversation, I want you to hear today's conversation from the lens of, in addition to a whole foods diet and what that looks like. So we're going to be talking about essential amino acids versus creatine and the benefits of taking it every day with or without meals. We're really going to get into it. If you decide after today's conversation that you're like, I want to give essential amino acids a try, maybe I want to replace them with protein powder or just add them to my whole food diet, you can go to getkeon.com/keto to save 20%. Now, when I reached out to Keon for the first time, just chatting with them about their essential amino acids and how they worked and whether or not I wanted to give them a try, I ended up as a customer using this product for quite some time before I started sharing it publicly. Your opinion of the products that I share really, I take this very seriously. I will say that with essential amino acids, they don't taste great. Your initial time that you take them, they might taste a little bit bitter. And this can be just like, do you remember when we did the whole exogenous ketone thing? And I was like, I'm going to tell you the first couple of times, not the best. It's really the same with essential amino acids. So once you get over that taste, usually the first or second time that you try it, I personally don't notice that taste anymore. It's very similar to when we started electrolytes and we started learning just how beneficial electrolytes are for our overall health. And they tasted so salty initially. And now personally, I do not even taste the salt. I can add a significant amount of salt into my coffee and water, and I'm not tasting the salt. So it's very much the same thing with essential amino acids. Before I just chat your ear off about this exciting topic, let's get into our conversation with Angelo on everything protein and essential aminos. Hey, my name is Leanne, and I'm fascinated with helping women navigate how to eat, move, and care for their bodies. This has taken me on a journey from vegan, keto, high protein to everything in between. I'm a small town holistic nutritionist turned 3-time international bestselling author turned functional medicine practitioner, offering telemedicine services around the globe to women looking to better their health and stop second-guessing themselves. I'm here to teach you how to wade through the wellness noise to get to the good stuff that'll help you achieve your goals. Whether you're seeking relief from chronic ailments, striving for peak performance, or simply eager to live a more vibrant life, this podcast is your go-to resource for actionable advice and inspiration. Together, we'll uncover the interconnectedness of nutrition, movement, sleep, stress management, and mindset, empowering you to make informed choices that support your unique health journey. Think of it as quality time with your bestie mixed with a little med school so you're empowered at your next doctor visit. Get ready to be challenged and encouraged while you learn about your body and how to care for it healthfully. Join me as we embrace vitality, reclaim our innate potential, and discover what it truly means to pursue healthfulness. Hey, Angelo, how's it going?
Good, Leanne. It's good to be back.
Yeah, it's been a hot minute. I'm so glad. We have more to chat about, all to do with EAAs and what they are and why they're doing the things they're doing and how they've helped me so much. So I'm so glad to get into this because the podcast has taken kind of a shift in direction, talking more about these intricacies when it comes to shifting the way that our body looks. So I'm excited and feels and operates. So I'm excited to get into this today with you.
I can't wait to do it.
Yeah. So what's kind of like new in the realm of essential amino acids right now? Like from the time you came last time, I think that was around like November. What has kind of shifted in that space since then? Anything?
I think, like big picture is the science hasn't shifted. The science continues to say very similar stuff to what we talked about last time, but there's probably some there's some cool updates I can give you about some newer studies. The biggest thing I think that happened is There's something called the International Society of Sports Nutrition, the ISSN, and it's an organization of academics who study all these different types of supplements, basically, and foods and their impact on body composition, performance. They also do a lot of stuff with aging populations. And in that group, they do reviews of supplements and research, et cetera. And they actually published a really important position paper in October of last year that basically said EAAs are incredible. I mean, they basically, and honestly, like a lot of the people that are in these organizations, they've been doing protein and essential amino acid research for 20 years. But to have a bunch of different academics that all, they don't all agree about everything. That's one of the cool things about these types of organizations. They come together, they critique each other's research, they summarize things. And the summary is just, it's pretty amazing. I mean, like headlines from it are that basically essential amino acids can be 6 times more effective than protein powder. There were some studies with older women showing that these women were just adding essential amino acids 2 times a day, and they were added 10 pounds of lean muscle in 3 months. Like just really awesome, mind-boggling stuff, and also some really good summaries of the research just around why. Like, how is it that just the essential amino acids that are also in protein powder and also like in beef, why would they be more effective if they're taken in this supplemental form? And they really explain it a lot more and make it more accessible to more people. And so I think in that context, it's stuff like maybe I was familiar with and people that are really deep in the world, but it's basically made the science more available to more people like personal trainers, nutritionists, doctors who are not necessarily nerding out just on every single essential amino acid paper that ever comes out.
I feel like maybe that's you.
That is me.
Okay. Because the stars in your eyes were the nerding out piece.
Yeah. So it was a pretty big deal. It was like, it's pretty cool. It's pretty cool to make the information more available to more people.
So like major teaser, and we're going to get in there a little bit later, but like, why are they more effective than the protein powders and the beef, and why?
Yeah, so I mean, maybe we'll just do like a quick summary. I know we went into way more detail last time about like what protein is and how it functions, but just to like give a basic explanation. So what makes protein so unique in general and different from carbohydrates and fat is that carbohydrates and fat, their primary role is to be a fuel source. So it's like buying natural gas or electricity from the electric grid to fuel your house, to make your dishwasher run, to run your house. In the same way we eat carbohydrates and fat and we convert them as fuel sources. And you can choose which one maybe works better for your body and which one you like better. Protein's different. Protein's more like, hey, I want to remodel the bathroom because it's old, it doesn't look good anymore. Or like one of my kids like ran into the wall, made a big hole in the wall, and I got to repair the wall, right? You actually need materials to help rebuild it. And that's what protein is in the body, because our bodies are made of proteins. All of our lean muscle, I think most people are familiar with that, but also all of our organs, our heart, our kidney, liver, like all these organs, our skin, our hair, our eyes, things like our hormones, enzymes, all of these are made of proteins. And the way that proteins work is that they don't last forever. Every little protein in our body lasts for a certain amount of time, and then it gets old and it literally breaks apart into these little amino acids. And the older ones, you pee them out. The ones that could still be reused, you actually utilize them to build new proteins to help. So you have a little protein in your skin. I mean, your skin's made of millions of proteins, but one gets old, it breaks apart into the little amino acids. You pee out the old ones and you want to rebuild that skin tissue. Well, how do you rebuild the skin tissue? You have to consume amino acids in your diet. And the way that we do that through whole foods is through things rich in protein, because proteins are made of these amino acids. So that's just a reframing of like, that's why essential amino acids and like protein, or we're even talking about them in the same context, because essential amino acids are this active component in the protein, why you're eating the protein. So why would it be that if I take, say, free form essential amino acids, something like Keon aminos, versus a whole food protein, why would it be different? So there's a few different reasons. The one major important reason, and this is like more generally about even just evaluating protein sources, is how digestible is a protein source? And animal proteins are typically more digestible. Like you can actually get more of the amino acids out of them than you can from plant proteins. Similarly, what's the profile? So are there more of the essential amino acids? Proteins are made up of like the non-essential ones, the ones that aren't as important, and the essential ones, the ones that are really important. They're the active ones. So are there more of those? And then the third thing is like, well, what's the concentration of it? Like, are there more? Are there like just a ton of those essential amino acids? So if I just compare a piece of beef to free-form essential amino acids, the beef is only like the protein in the beef is only half essential amino acids. The other half is the non-essential. And the non-essential actually don't stimulate any protein synthesis, whereas the essential stimulate all of it. But here's the interesting thing. Here's like the really big difference. It's how digestible it is and how quickly it hits your bloodstream. And this is some of the more recent research since like 2020. There's a big paper that came out in 2020 in nutrients, but more and more research has been done on this for the military, for all different types of third-party groups. And basically what they determined is 70 grams of protein from steak, from beef protein, as part of a mixed meal. So this is like a 12-ounce steak, basically. That's how much protein you would get from it. And you're having like broccoli and potatoes or whatever else you're going to eat in this mixed meal, stimulates as much muscle protein synthesis as less than half of that, 30 grams of just beef. You take the same beef, but you have less of it, but you eat it on its own, and it stimulates more muscle protein synthesis. By simply consuming that steak as part of a mixed meal, because it gets mixed up with the broccoli and the potatoes and whatever else you're eating, it's not as easy for your body to break it down and basically get these higher concentrations of it in the blood quickly. And the higher the concentration of the essential amino acids in the blood, the more protein synthesis spike you get throughout your whole body, not just muscle, but like rebuilding skin tissue, rebuilding heart tissue, rebuilding joints, like everything that is made up of these proteins. So you just get that. Like if I literally just eat lean beef on its own, I can eat half as much and it stimulates as much muscle protein synthesis. But here's now the next trippy thing. If I compare that lean beef, 30 grams, to whey protein powder, whey protein isolate, the whey protein isolate is 3 times the muscle protein synthesis of just that beef. And be like, well, why would that be? Well, like a whey protein isolate doesn't have carbs, doesn't have fat, everything else has been stripped away. It's basically much easier for your body to digest because it just breaks it down and it hits your blood much more quickly. And the profile, it has certain essential amino acids that are higher. Then when you compare that to free-form essential amino acid supplement, something like Keon Aminos, where there's no digestion. You consume the essential amino acids, you don't have to break them down. Your body doesn't have to break down the protein and get the amino acids out of it. It just absorbs them, immediately hits the blood, and you can get the proportions just right. So you can have higher proportions of leucine, isoleucine, valine, lysine, and when that happens, you can get in a young adult 3 times the amount as the whey protein powder. In an older person, 6 times. So when you start comparing this to like lean beef, for a young adult, it's going to be like 14 times the amount of protein synthesis as beef as part of a mixed meal. For an older adult, it's like over 20 times. So the short answer after nerding out on you for 5 minutes is that like basically it's just the active component of the protein, the essential amino acids. They're in very specific ratios, and the digestion, they're just immediately bioavailable. Like there's no digestion that's not getting mixed up with anything else. And when it hits those really high concentrations, it goes to your blood and it just communicates to your body, hey, rebuild proteins.
So my mind went through, I always try to listen to our guests from a listener's perspective of, as you were talking, I'm like, okay, so I'll just go carnivore and then just eat all the protein by itself. And then, no, wait, maybe I need to up my whey protein. Oh, no, wait, why don't I just eat what I am eating right now, but just add essential aminos? So it was like this progression.
I like your final solution. I think that's it. I think that's the final solution. Because for real, it's like we're talking in isolation about what these essential amino acids do. Whole food proteins have other good micronutrients in them. They have vitamins, they have minerals. And also, if you're doing types of exercise or training, like lifting weights, you're stimulating protein synthesis already, and you're getting the amino acids from the protein just to help fulfill that process. But if you think about taking the supplements, basically you're getting these additional stimuli of muscle protein. It's almost like little mini weight training. By taking the essential amino acids on their own, even outside of training days, when you're not even training, you're telling your body to build new muscle in ways like on days when you train. So rather than like replacing your food, instead thinking, hey, how do I just eat good quality meals? And then what are ways that I can supplement and fill in that support my overall training and health and adaptations.
Electrolytes facilitate hundreds of functions in the body, including the conduction of nerve impulses, hormonal regulation, nutrient absorption, and fluid balance. Nearly every one of my clients that I work with one-on-one have an imbalance of electrolytes in some way, from symptoms of headaches, muscle cramps, fatigue, sleeplessness, or seen right there in their blood work. Much of this is improved with proper electrolyte supplementation. Now, I personally consume 1 packet of electrolytes daily at least, and not just any electrolyte element, because it doesn't have any sugar, fillers, coloring, or artificial anything. And it has an effective electrolyte ratio that so many of the other brands just do not do right. That includes 1,000 milligrams of sodium, 200 milligrams of potassium, and 60 milligrams of magnesium. Right now, Element is offering my listeners a free sample pack with any drink mix order. That's 8 single-serving packets free with any drink mix order. Get yours at drinkelement.com/KDP, and this deal is only available through this link. All orders made will come with a no questions asked refund policy, so you can try it totally risk-free, and if you don't like it, you can get your money back, no questions asked. That's drinkelement.com, drinklmnt.com/KDP for your free sample pack with any drink mix order. And that's really where I've used essential amino acids. I mean, initially I'll say that I was pretty skeptical. Like, why do I need this? I feel like we covered it so much in our last episode. And after we chatted, I was like, I'm gonna bump it up and see what happens. And it was interesting. Right after our episode went live, actually, I went into, from a bulk period, I went into a cut period. And then after our episode, I went into a maintenance. So I was eating maintenance calories, continuing to lift the same program. And about 4 months in, having increased my essential amino acids, my trainer started saying, like, what are you doing? We haven't changed your macros. I can see your body changing. It should be changing, but not this drastically. Like, what happened?
Changing, like more muscle definition?
Yes, more muscle definition, way stronger. I was the same weight. My weight was not changing, but I physically looked different. And I was able to, like, for example, in a very short period of time, I've advanced in my pull-ups to 3, like, perfectly perfect pull-ups in a maintenance phase, which, I mean, we can expect some body recomposition to happen in maintenance, but not to the level that I've been able to shift in a short period of time. And my macros have remained, I track them every day. There's not a day that I do not track my macros, and it has leveled up my body. And so it took me a little bit to realize that that was what had occurred, because I was like, I don't know. I don't feel like I did change anything. And then when I was working, I was going through things. I'm like, right, I don't track when I add my aminos, and I probably should to my tracker. And that was the missing link. And as soon as I realized that, I was like, oh yeah, okay, that makes sense. That's really awesome. So more muscle, and therefore, like, I had to have lost fat because the scale did not move, and better progression in my workouts since November when I started adding more. Because I think when you came on, I was saying I was having maybe 1 scoop every other meal, but now I'm doing like 2 scoops 3 times a day. Sometimes I'll add in a couple before and after my workouts, depending. But that progression was so cool.
That is so cool. And that is, like, I think you're such a great example too, though, of like what good supplementation can actually look like. It's not like you're thinking, oh, I'm just going to take this thing and it's going to like change everything about my life. It's like, I'm eating well, I'm exercising, I'm now adding this thing, and like, wow, like when I'm stacking these good habits on top of each other, that's when I can actually start to see like real change and something sustainable. Because, you know, people could just like starve themselves for 2 weeks and lose a bunch of weight on a scale, but like after a few months, what does your body look like and feel like? It's not going to be great. You probably lost a bunch of muscle. You're not as strong. Whereas like you're actually having this experience of like, wow, over the course of months, observationally from you and your trainer, you're stronger, you look fitter, you clearly have more muscle, you've clearly lost some fat, but it's like a sustainable thing. And I think, yeah, I love the model of what you describe, where it's like you're doing multiple good things and you're habit stacking them. So you're a great model for us. For all of us.
It didn't start this way. It did not start this way. Let me tell you, it has been a progression. But I think the big, like, the big thing, and you touched on it, and I really want people to hear this because it's mostly women listening. When we see that scale move, all of a sudden there's this, yay, like I've lost weight, but we really need to shift our perspective. Like what I'm saying is from November 7th of 2023 to like, it was around May 5th of 2024, I lost 0 pounds. Like the scale maybe went up and down by 0.5, 1 pound, like nothing really changed, but my body looks totally different. And so we can't use the scale as a means of progress in a lot of ways, because you said if you're jumping on the scale and you're doing things drastically, you're losing muscle. Can we talk a little bit about muscle and its role, like why we should care about this muscle thing? Like, why is it important to maintain this muscle? Why don't we want, weight is weight. Let's just get it off. Why do we need to change that conversation?
So I think there's two big elements to it. One is like, we can just talk straight vanity, like how I look and which I think is a legitimate thing. How do I look? How do I feel about how I look? Is this what I was imagining, of myself, of my body? And then the second one is like, what is actually really healthy for me now to be able to have a really good functioning immune system and to be able to participate in activities and not feel fatigued and have good hormone regulation and like feel vibrant in life and also age well so that 20 years, 30, 40 years from now, I feel good. And I think they're actually the same conversation and they're the same solution. They're not at odds with each other. And muscle really is a key factor of it. It's not the only thing, but it is a big key factor of it, because just like we're saying, your weight didn't change. But if you replace some of that fat, if you replace a pound of fat with a pound of muscle, simply having that muscle, because the muscle itself, like I said earlier, it's made up of proteins and the proteins break down and have to be rebuilt. That requires energy. It actually you have to eat food and burn energy to replace the proteins in your muscle. Even when you're not exercising, if you're just like laying at rest, you burn more calories. You have a higher metabolism simply by having a pound more of muscle and a pound less of fat. So overall, you maintain a higher like burn rate. You're just burning more calories in general. And then when you exercise, you burn even more calories. So it fulfills itself. It supports itself to maintain itself and maintain like a leaner, more tone figure in that way. But more importantly, when you have that kind of muscle, you're stronger. You can do 3 pull-ups now. And not that like everyone needs to want to do pull-ups, but it does say a lot. I'm sure it gives you confidence. It makes you feel good about yourself. And as you get older, it seems really easy right now and simple maybe to like, push yourself up. Like, I don't know, like grab onto the sides of your chair and push yourself up. It's not going to be as easy in 30, 40, 50 years. It's going to be harder. And by building that muscle now and building the ability to like move yourself around and take care of yourself, it's like an insurance policy for the future. But also going back like to now, people don't realize this, muscle is like the primary thing that regulates your blood sugar. It absorbs like 80% of the sugar that you consume. So if you have more muscle, then even when you eat something that has any kind of carbohydrates in it or sugar, it's what helps absorb it and actually like process that. And so even if you're on a very, very low carb diet, the ability to modulate and just mediate the impact of any kind of carbohydrates, like muscle is what does that for you and helps you maintain this much healthier insulin response now, which affects mood and weight gain and hormones. But long term, it supports you like avoiding being pre-diabetic or diabetes or other types of like health issues. So I think just, you just think from like that perspective, it's core to your health. But here's like, I think the biggest risk, and I go back to that example earlier with like just starving myself in the moment, and like think, oh, if I get the scale to go down, then I'm going to be happy. I think that most people, when they envision what they think is going to look good, and people have different visions of that. It could be thin or less thin. It could be more muscular or less muscular. But people I think generally are thinking like not lots of excess body fat and toned muscles. And that could be like, oh, I like the way people who do Pilates look, or yoga, or I don't know, like the woman who teaches my HIIT class, or, or whatever. And maybe if you're a dude, it's like some want to look more swole and big or whatever. But it's like, for most people, there's some amount of muscle, definition. When you restrict calories by just 30%, and this is a more recent study from the last few years, and they've been able to replicate it. When you restrict calories by 30%, so let's just say you're kind of an average sized woman, you are active, and you burn around 2,100 calories a day. And let's say you want to go into a cutting phase and lose some fat. And so you cut out 30%, which would be approximately 700 calories a day. By cutting out 700 calories a day in about 5 days, if in about 5 days, ideally you would lose about a pound of fat, right? Because it's about 3,500 calories in a pound of fat. But you can lose a pound of muscle with a 750 calorie deficit, so much less. So what starts to happen is if you just starve yourself really quickly, and starving is maybe too strong of a language. If you restrict how much you eat with the goal of making the scale go down, you are not just losing fat, you're going to lose a lot of muscle, because for every 30% restriction of calories, you have a 300% increase in need of essential amino acids. So that's like eating 3 times as much protein, or if you supplement it with something like essential amino acids, it could be significantly less than that. You have to eat way more than that simply to not lose muscle. And so when you do that kind of cutting, you're losing fat and you're losing muscle. But like I just said, when you lose the muscle, you're losing the definition of like probably the way you want your arms or legs or whatever you want to look. You're losing the muscle that's helping regulate your blood sugar. You're losing the muscle that's going to help you do that pull up. You're losing the muscle that's going to help you live longer and be stronger. And so I think we really have to get in our mind, I'm not just trying to get the scale to go down. My vision for myself is that I'm trying to build lean mass that's appropriate for the body type that I think I want to have. And I'm trying to maybe lose some fat if that's a goal of yours. But you really don't want to just be losing weight, because the idea of losing weight is just, it's at odds with long-term health. It's at odds with your current health. It's at odds with your vanity, I promise. Like just the sense of how we want to look. Like it's not actually what we want. What we want is we want to lose fat and we want to maintain our muscle. And in order to achieve that, it's about doing things like exercise, whether that's strength training or Pilates or yoga. I mean, it can also, I think cardio type stuff like running is more for your heart. It's less for making your body look a certain way. But doing those types of activities, it's eating high protein, and it's thinking about, if I'm going to try to lose fat, supplementing with something like essential amino acids in that period. And then you can really change your body. Or even like you in a maintenance phase, you were actually able to not change your caloric intake, but increase the amount of these essential amino acids. And through training, you ended up burning, because you were utilizing those amino acids to build new muscle, and that was energy intensive, you ended up burning fat at the same time. And so you actually could transform your body. And I have an amazing example of someone in my office who he injured his shoulder. He's 40 years old. He injured his shoulder. He couldn't really train for a while, but he was really wanting to lose some fat. And he tracked what he ate, and he went into caloric deficit, but he significantly increased his daily Keon aminos intake. He was taking like a few servings a day, like a couple servings a couple times a day. And in 3 months, he lost 25 pounds of fat and lost no muscle, and he took body scans. So it's like he can show it. He can prove what happened. That's pretty unheard of, that being possible. But it's because he was eating good quality whole food meals. He was cutting calories of the things that were actually going to contribute more to the fat. And then he was upping his essential amino acid intake. And that enabled him to maintain that muscle. And then once his shoulder was better and he get into training, now he's just put on more and more muscle, and he hasn't put on any fat.
This is such a hard thing for ladies to really absorb in their brains, this whole concept, because I'm just thinking of, many of my clients who come to me, they're 200, 250, sometimes even 300 pounds, eating 1,400, 1,600, maybe 1,800 calories a day, like max. And they're like, but if I can just lose the weight first, then I can build the muscle. Then I can, do all these things. And I really hope that this episode lands on the ears of these ladies who are just really spinning their wheels, because this is a constant thing that's happening. And I truly believe, to the fiber of my being, that the protein piece is lacking in all of our understanding of how to support our bodies. And in the early 2000s, we're lacking in fat because we're coming from a place of margarine and these low fat diets. And we need to talk about the quality of fat. And I think we've dialed that in really nicely since the keto thing happened. And I think what's really lacking now is an understanding of how this protein and how muscle development and support is going to move us forward. Like, yes, of course, It's amazing that I can do a pull-up. I never, ever thought in a million years, if somebody pushes me off a cliff, I can actually save myself, which is too cool. But you're right. It's so much more than that. It's like the aging process. It's hormone regulation. And also it's hitting those goals. And we talked about this in the last episode of just the fear that women have about getting bulky. And you don't accidentally get bulky. It takes people years to attain that look. And so when we're talking about increasing protein, we're talking about supplementing with essential amino acids. Don't worry, you won't wake up tomorrow looking like the Hulk. That is a very intentional thing that people work years to achieve. And so I don't want somebody to not give protein a try and to not take this seriously with fear that they will wake up ginormous. Any thoughts to add to that?
I mean, I think you said it really well. I would just emphasize again, like, it's hard to get bulky. It's really hard to get bulky. It's not just going to happen. Honestly, it's not going to happen without very specific training protocols from a personal trainer that is helping you to get bulky. Like, you are not going to eat more protein and take essential amino acids and lift weights on your own and suddenly get bulky. It's not going to happen. Like, you're going to have to work with someone that specifically knows how to program your training. So there's like this progressive overload in a specific way, and it gets harder each week. And it's like, it's not going to happen. And so with that in mind, just emphasizing again that actually investing in the consuming enough protein, which at its heart is consuming enough essential amino acids, and making that the priority of your day, like in nutrition wise, I think specifically for weight loss. So if we are trying to like simplify things, what I would say is there's a lot of reasons why you would eat different types of foods for different types of micronutrients and like just overall health. But if your goal is to lose fat, focusing on protein first, like protein and fiber, those are the things that are going to just make it easier. Like, and it's not going to solve every single health thing, but like that's what's going to help with the fat loss. And then also it seems counterintuitive. It's like, oh, I think I just need to get on the treadmill, or I need to do this like cardio type stuff. Like, those activities will burn calories in the moment, but you'd be surprised. It's actually not that many calories. Like it really doesn't burn that much. If you instead you spent that time doing some type of strength training, either with weights. And I give the example of yoga and Pilates because those are a form of strength training as well that I think for some women maybe feels more accessible or something. It's like those body weight based training, those activities on a consistent basis combined with focusing on protein, you'll be transforming your body from the inside. And I don't mean like transforming, from your heart or your soul. I mean, like literally you'll be replacing pockets of fat with pockets of muscle on the inside. And you'll start to see your body actually change the way that it looks versus just doing the opposite, right? Trying to like run a lot and trying to like eat, not eat protein. It's like the opposite. It's just like the opposite direction of what will actually make the change I think most people and women are looking for.
Yes. Since we're on the topic of exercise, I want to go into a little bit around why essential amino acids can be helpful to take like before, during, after exercise, recovery, just like understanding this. I've started adding 2 or 3 scoops to my bottle that I drink while I'm exercising. And I've noticed actually, I went to Italy. I just got back last week and I ate a significant amount of carbohydrates. Like there were pizzas, multiple a day, gelato twice a day. Like it was epic. And I noticed I was quite hypoglycemic when I got back, which fair enough. Like I just annihilated my body. And I found during my workouts, I've been going hypoglycemic a little bit in a response to Italy and just eating all the carbohydrates. It's interesting when I have my aminos and I start drinking them in my workout, my glucose will regulate as I'm working out. And I put on my little CGM because I'm like, is this happening? Yes, it is. Yes, it is. So I found that really interesting. And I want to touch on more around the workouts, the fueling, recovery, why essential amino acids are helpful.
Absolutely. So first point I make is I think lots of times people associate taking essential amino acids with exercise, and I just want to repeat again, they make so much sense to not take during exercise, like other times of the day, first thing in the morning with meals, like there's all these other benefits, but they are also really awesome with exercise. And here's why. we'll talk about like a weight training type exercise first. When you lift weights, you're basically stressing the muscle tissue and you're communicating to it that you want there to be muscle protein turnover. You want to break down old proteins and rebuild new ones, which is inherently saying I'm going to stimulate new protein synthesis. When you take essential amino acids, and this is what makes them so uniquely different than, say, just like eating meat before you work out, right? It does the same thing. It tells the body, hey, I want to build new proteins. So when you combine them together, either by taking them before exercise or during exercise, it's like a multiplication effect. You get much more protein synthesis and new replacing muscle fibers is a simple way of thinking about it than you would taking either one of them on their own, just doing the weight training or just taking the essential amino acids. They're both good on their own, but when you combine them, it's basically it's a multiplication of the two factors. When you do that, also what happens is taking the essential amino acids before or during exercise helps to limit the amount of breakdown. So it actually promotes more of the new muscle fibers being created and less of unnecessarily breaking down like still currently functional ones. And when you have less of the breakdown, it reduces the amount of like recovery that you need. So basically you're not getting as sore, you're not having as much of those types of issues. When you take the essential amino acids after exercise, some people don't realize this. When you lift weights, it promotes all this muscle protein turnover, not just when you're doing it, but like for the next 24 hours. So for the next 24 hours, you continue to get the benefits of having done that strength training, which is more fundamentally different than just like traditional cardio exercise. You don't get the same amount of benefits for the next 24 hours from going on a run than you do from like lifting weights. So when you actually take the essential amino acids after the exercise, it also helps to prevent as much of the breakdown and supports more of the new protein synthesis. And again, it supports your recovery. What I would say though overall is if you're only going to take it once around exercise, it's better to take it before or during, but it's still great to take after. And if you're like so it's like if you want to save it more as like a treat for afterwards, that's totally fine. Like it's still highly effective. It's one of those supplements where it's like it's so good in so many contexts, there's not a bad time to take it. It's just, are there more, if I have a limited amount, when's the most optimal time? It's more optimal to take it before or during. But yeah, if you're just going gangbusters and it's like, I'm really committed, I'm eating super clean, I'm cutting out calories, but I really want to maintain my lean muscle and I want to burn fat, take it before you exercise. You could be drinking it during and take it after. And you'll get the benefit from all of those.
I feel like I need a gangbuster t-shirt then because
that's
you.
Me. Well, and you see it. I mean, you got the benefits. I mean, like 5 months, 6 months, it's a pretty short period for a trainer to make those kinds of remarks to you.
Yeah.
It takes time. Yeah.
Oh, it takes so much time. I think that's another piece is like, all of us are looking on Instagram and seeing these progression pictures and we think it's been like 2 weeks. And sometimes people will say that it was 2 weeks because they're selling some magic juice that'll help you look totally different in 2 weeks. But generally speaking, these things are taking years. It's not an overnight kind of thing. There was one piece that you touched on and it just made me think when you're talking about after exercise and taking essential aminos, would this replace a meal instead of having a meal post-workout? Because I feel like a couple of listeners probably thought, so this could just replace my post-workout meal then.
Yeah, I mean, that's a great question. So what I would say is specifically for the benefits of supporting your muscles, right? And muscle protein synthesis, if you take it right after you exercise, you don't have the need necessarily to eat right then if you don't want to. Like you're getting a lot of benefit just from the essential amino acids. That said, you might be hungry then, right? And so like if you are hungry then and you like to eat then, it's totally fine to take the essential aminos and to eat. Like you won't lose the benefits. And more recent studies in this last year have just shown that after training, there's like what we thought was a previous upper limit to how beneficial protein intake could be it's much different than we thought. Like you can get a lot of benefit from eating. So if you took 1 to 3 servings of essential amino acids right after you worked out, and then you don't want to eat for 2-3 hours, you're good. If on the other hand, you want to take it and then you want to go and have a meal in the next like 30 minutes to an hour, you're good. Like both of those things are fine and they're supportive of your training. So I think either way.
We know that we lose muscle as we age and that this loss massively affects our ability to function. Like, I'm talking basic tasks here. Muscle is important for protecting our joints and also keeping our metabolism revving. Basically, you want muscle. And unfortunately, a lot of us just don't prioritize muscle maintenance or see it as an importance. And you may also be cringing at the idea of going to the gym and being able to maintain that muscle consistently. Yes, active moving is super good. And there's really nothing like it when it comes to the mood boost of pumping iron. So when I share about Urolithin A, I am not saying just to do this and you can maintain your muscle without movement. Well, like I am saying that because Urolithin A does do that, but I think pairing Urolithin A with exercise is likely the best path forward. So I started taking a product called MitoPure to boost my performance and improve muscular strength. And MitoPure has 500 milligrams per serving of Urolithin A, a postbiotic shown to have major benefits to significantly increasing muscle strength and endurance with no other change in lifestyle. Yes, you heard that right. I just said that it has major benefits to significantly increase muscle strength and endurance with no other change to lifestyle. It gives your body the energy it needs to optimize its cellular power grid through boosted mitochondrial health without changes to lifestyle or diet. Now imagine what it could do with your low carb diet and a walking goal or a lifting goal a couple of times per week. It took me a long time, like a couple of months, to introduce MitoPure to my day because it's so strong. Every time I took it, I almost had too much energy, so I really had to titrate up. MitoPure is the first product to offer a precise dose of urolithin A to upgrade mitochondrial function, increase cellular energy, and improve muscle strength and endurance. They've created 3 ways to get your daily dose of 500 milligrams of urolithin A in their product MitoPure. They've got a delicious vanilla protein powder that combines muscle building protein with the cellular energy of MitoPure. Now, this product does contain whey protein. And then they have a berry powder that easily mixes into smoothies or just about any drink. This is dairy free. And finally, the soft gels, which is what I prefer because it's just easier. This is also dairy free. I love the starter pack idea though. If you can handle the dairy, the 3 forms of MitoPure to play around with which one is your favorite, top notch. So Timeline, the creators of MitoPure, is putting together a sweet little offer for you, 10% off your first order. So if you go to timelinenutrition.com/KDP and use the code KDP, you'll get 10% off your order. Again, that's timelinenutrition.com/KDP. I recommend trying their starter pack with all 3 formats and picking out your best format. Again, that's timelinenutrition.com/KDP. What I found super helpful for those that need like more of a structure is I just say to myself, I'm going to eat every 4 to 5 hours. So if I eat and then I work out pretty much directly after my workout, I'm giving myself a little bit of time until I get hungry. Especially on those days, I'm taking my EAAs like during my workout, after my workout, and then I just wait until I get hungry. But if there's a day where maybe I'm working out in the afternoon, it's been 2 to 3 hours since I ate, then I do a workout, I'm immediately going home and I'm eating. And so that can be just a good, like if it's been more than 4 to 5 hours since your meal and a workout was somewhere in there, it's time to eat, just kind of regulating that. And I find that to be really helpful for myself because sometimes I can overthink things like, should I eat now? Should I not eat now? And so just the 4 to 5 hour rule just helps me know when to eat.
I think that's a great, very simple advice. I would support that, Leanne. And I think overall, just trying to think having protein every 4 to 5 hours is like, it's ideal.
Yes, totally. So we talked a little bit more about strength training, but what about like the cardio type of individuals, the aerobic exercise, running? What about that? Where does it fit in? Same or
I can't
different?
tell you, like I literally cannot count or tell you how many marathon runners have told me that taking Keon aminos and essential amino acids have entirely changed their race day experience and their training and their recovery. And I'll explain why that is the case. And so it makes so much sense with cardio as well. So two things go on. One is when you do cardio, especially any kind of like extended cardio, you're not only burning up the energy sources of carbohydrates, or if you're fat adapted, like you're keto and you're burning fats to fuel it, you do start burning more amino acids. So there's a constant steady state of amino acids in your blood. And when you take a bunch of, like, say, Keon aminos, it floods the blood with it, and it's like, oh, we got to use these, and then it starts to rebuild proteins and muscle, et cetera. But if you didn't take any amino acids and you just have amino acids in your blood and you start to run and you do really intense training, after a while, you start burning up the amino acids that are just available in, like, there's a pool basically of amino acids in your blood that are available to help rebuild tissues and enzymes and hormones and all these things that you have this need for. But as you exercise, you increase the utilization of those amino acids, and now you don't have enough in your blood. And so what happens is you have to do something to get more in your blood. And what you do is you tap into the reservoir called your muscle, and you start breaking down lean muscle to supply the blood with amino acids to help fuel the body. And that's both fueling the body as an energy source, because it does use some amino acids as energy, but also amino acids play this really important role of they're facilitators of the conversion of fats and carbohydrates to ATP at the level of the muscle. So they help facilitate that at the level of the mitochondria. And so you need more amino acids for that. So when you don't, take amino acids, which you don't have to before you go for a run or before you do some kind of cardio, there's only so many that you can utilize in your blood before you start breaking down muscle. And once you start breaking down muscle, you're going to have muscle fatigue, like naturally, right? Like you're taxing your muscles even more. But also when you start to have this lower level of certain amino acids, particularly leucine, you get more tryptophan in relationship to leucine in the blood. And tryptophan is the amino acid that when it goes through the blood-brain barrier, it converts into 5-HTP, which converts into serotonin, which converts into melatonin. But it's really the serotonin that makes you feel kind of like soft and sleepy and so they call it, it's the central fatigue hypothesis, that by burning up the amino acids in your blood, particularly the leucine, you end up with more tryptophan and it makes you feel tired. So just purely by taking amino acids before cardio, it will support reducing muscle fatigue and overall giving you a greater sense of energy and alertness, etc. But when you actually just talk about also say like, hey, when I go for a run, and this is true for strength training, but going for a run or swimming or a HIIT class or whatever, I want to get the most out of that exercise that I can. And it's same as the strength training, when you take the essential amino acids, it does spike in your blood and create this new protein synthesis. And you combine that with the training, and you basically get more out of the training. You are amplifying the impact of the training to replace more muscle fibers and make them more functional. And you're going to reduce the amount of the breakdown, which thus is going to reduce the amount of recovery period, of feeling sore, etc. So what I hear so often from marathoners is they don't necessarily take it when they go like on a short run, but they typically go on longer runs. They'll take a serving every hour, and they'll take a bigger serving every hour of running, basically, of intense running. You'll burn through the amino acid pool, and you'll have to start breaking down muscle. And they take a larger serving afterwards. And they say again and again, like, I broke all my old records, and afterwards I wasn't sore the next day. Like, it's literally totally different than what it was before. Because for many of them, they're just thinking like, oh, it's I run on carbohydrates, like many endurance athletes. But it's not just carbohydrates. The amino acid pool is really important.
You just listed off so many reasons why I stopped running, because I just couldn't get it right. Now I'm wondering, could I start running again and using essential amino acids oh boy, next time we talk, I'm going to be running. Oh no.
Honestly, running is, quickly while we're on running, I think for body composition, running is not, if that's what you like, then go running. Like, I think the first thing I say is whatever exercise you're willing to do that exercise, because adherence is the most important thing. But if you really want to like change the way your body looks, like,
don't run.
Yeah, I mean, weight training is going to do it faster than anything else. That said, there are real benefits to long-term heart health that you can get through running. And it doesn't have to be like hardcore running. It's like zone 2. It's like you're jogging at a very slow pace. You can be able to be talking to the person next to you. You do that for at least 20 minutes. But if you could do it for 40 minutes, an hour, a couple times a week, it doesn't have to feel like pushing till I feel like I want to throw up. Like it can be more leisurely. And then you can just really support long-term heart health. So quick plug that like running doesn't have to be as terrible as you thought it was.
Exactly. So we've talked a lot about exercise. What about those individuals that are just not interested in the exercise thing yet? And even the caloric restriction part, like what benefit do essential amino acids have for the people that those two topics are just really boring for them?
If all you did was start taking essential amino acids every day, like you simply added that, you would scientifically be increasing the amount of protein synthesis, whole body protein synthesis, and you change nothing else in your diet. You just started taking 1 serving a day. You would be increasing the amount of protein synthesis that occurs in your body every day. And that would be encouraging you to rebuild skin, rebuild different tissues, rebuild, organs, but also it'd be slightly increasing the amount of lean muscle that you're developing over time. And again, it's not going to happen if you take it one time. But if you literally just started today and you start taking it every day, it would have an impact to improve whole body protein synthesis and improve muscle. Now, if you don't do anything else, if you don't change anything else in your diet, and you're not exercising, you're not doing anything, you're going to see less benefit. But on its own, it will provide that benefit. And if you took more than 1 serving, if you took 2 servings at a time and you took it twice a day, you'll have about 4 times the impact of taking it that 1 serving once a day. So for someone who's just like really not ready to commit to any type of additional exercise or diet, it's a solid choice of a starting place. I think you'll also notice likely less fatigue, less mood imbalance. These are things, particularly if you're just not eating enough protein, you're going to feel this change from consuming the essential amino acids. But yeah, you're immediately going to probably feel a little, not immediately, but over the course of a week, couple of weeks, you're going to start to feel better just in general from it. And then I would just say, once you got that, so if I get the ketone aminos, I start taking it once a day, or I like this, I can take this twice. I listen to him. I'll take it 2 servings twice a day. And this is my thing. And you start doing that for a couple of weeks and you start to give a little bit more energy, you feel a little bit better. Just add walking and whatever works for you to walking, whether it's walking around your block or you can get up to walking a mile a day. You just get into walking. If you can just add the essential amino acids and add some walking, it is a significant improvement over not doing those 2 things. And then come back, listen to this episode again, and maybe you'll be inspired to maybe try some weight training or, go for a run or whatever it is. But I think that's where I would start.
And as we're changing these sorts of actions and we're starting to feel better, our moods are improving, we have more energy. I feel like sleep is also a part of it that we didn't touch on last time. I have a friend who's going through immunotherapy and her sleep has been not great. And I gave her a whole thing of essential amino acids, an entire tub. I was like, take this, you're welcome. And she's sleeping through the night. So can we talk a little bit about essential amino acids and sleep and how that just kind of brings all of it together too? Because when we're sleeping well, our energy is going to be better. We're wanting to move more. What about sleep?
So sleep is it's a complicated subject, and there's a lot of variables that play into improving one's sleep. One of the core aspects of sleep that is important to highlight is that it's largely influenced by neurotransmitters. So neurotransmitters are the chemical messengers in our brain that are responsible for how we would identify different types of emotional experiences. And those could be, experiences of excitement, feeling stimulated, feeling scared, feeling sleepy, feeling kind of silly, feeling like you're kind of open to being intimate and hugging someone. All of these are actually connected to specific chemicals in our brain, these neurotransmitters. Those neurotransmitters are amino acids or the metabolites of amino acids. So you just get the basic idea. If you supply yourself with a more balanced amount of amino acids through your diet, through food, through supplementation, you can expect to experience changes not only in your mood, but in the way that you sleep. So what I'll tie it together is that when you start to fall asleep and your ability to stay asleep, it is influenced by these neurotransmitters and neurotransmitter balance. And so overall, if you can start to nurture your nutrition, right, through amino acids, you could experience differences in the way that you sleep. And there's more and different ways of doing that. Keon, we actually have a sleep formula that's an amino acid formula that's different. It's slightly different. It's higher in certain types of amino acids, but many people simply have the experience of actually using the essential amino acid complex and it providing those types of benefits.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I need to try that sleep combination because that's great. Okay. So when it comes to cost, I know when we just talk about supplementation and all the things, people are just trying to coordinate cost effectively. When we look at how expensive, like the expense of essential amino acids versus protein powder supplementation and kind of balancing that out, any things that you want to touch on when it comes to the cost of this ongoing maintenance? Because if we're taking, like in my case, 2 to 3 scoops, 3-ish or more times a day, it can get pricey. Does it or does it not when compared to protein powder supplementation and just protein overall?
First thing I want to say is that many things can be good at the same time, right? So like good quality meat can be and eating that can be a good thing. Buying protein powder can be a good thing. Buying essential amino acids can be a good thing. And they don't have to be like exclusive to each other. That said, you can get a better return on certain types of foods and supplements based off what they do. And so when you go back and you re-examine what we were talking about earlier about the impact of essential amino acids, say versus a protein powder, and the group of the females that I described earlier, where it has 6 times the impact. It was actually over 6 times. 3 grams had more impact than 20 grams of a whey protein. If I compare similar high quality, so like, because this also can get manipulated if you're like buying a really cheap, gross amino acid product or some kind of like really inferior meat product. Like just assume like these are equal quality tiered products, right? Something like Keon Aminos, I think on I think the discount, that's for your audience, I think it's like $1.33 or something a serving. Pretty sure that's what it is. Whereas protein powder, which Keon also makes one, and I believe in, like I like it. Like I give it to my kids. We make it, make waffles out of it. We utilize it you can add it to Greek yogurt. Like it's a great another tool. It's not like only amino acids or only protein, but it's about $1.50 a serving. And when I look at how much more of impactful the essential amino acids are versus the whey protein, it ends up being more affordable per serving if I'm literally just thinking about supporting protein synthesis in my body. Like it's giving me a better bang for the buck in terms of how much more it generates. That said, sometimes maybe it's like, I want to put protein powder in a smoothie, so it's gonna, I don't want to take an essential amino acid supplement. So I want to take a protein. But if I don't care and I'm open to it, and it's like, I like drinking my Keon Aminos when I'm working out, or I like having it right afterwards, like it's a better return. It's a better bang for the buck than taking protein after I train. Like it simply is more affordable. And then I think if you look at the cost of things, I think we all just have to make decisions about what we want to invest our money in. I think when you think about like $1.33 for a serving of something, and I think about maybe what I would pay for coffee if I got it out, or if you choose to have alcohol and have a beer or wine or something, or you choose pack of gum, or like all these different little micro decisions that we make. I think $1.33 for a serving of something that is going to improve my metabolism, help me have more lean muscle, support overall like my long-term metabolic health and being able to, mediate the impact of sugars and carbs. It's going to support, make me live longer, like all these things, help me train, help me get that pull up, help me look the way I want to look. I'm like, it seems like a reasonable thing to consider. It's not like thousands of dollars for, I don't know, some kind of machine I got to get, or I got to, pay a trainer, I don't know, thousands of dollars to help me make this change. Like it feels pretty accessible.
Yes, totally. I agree with you. I don't even know what a soda goes for now, but I feel like it's around the same price. So why, okay. So last question for you is, when we're looking for an essential amino acid supplement, because we just went through it for the last hour, what are we looking for? What kind of trigger words are they using that are a marketing ploy? How do we not get deceived? Lay it on me.
So the most important thing, number one, is that you absolutely want all 9 essential amino acids. There are some products out there, like branch chain amino acid products, where there's only 3. There's some also brands, there's a lot out there. There's like this MAP formula and a lot of people that promote these other forms where there's only 8 essential amino acids and they say the 9th is not really essential. Like it's just totally wrong. It's a lie. I don't know how else to say it. It's like not true. It's like if there was an amino, and it's funny, they leave out histidine. If there was one that would leave out that's the lowest amount, it's tryptophan. Like even if you look at the science, it's like it's by far the lowest one. Like that would be the one, not the histidine. So it's just clearly bunk and it's not true. So definitely don't trust anyone who's selling that currently, knowing the science. So you definitely need all 9. Next thing I'd say is you don't need more than all 9. If they add other things like taurine or arginine or these other types of non-essential amino acids, those are not bad things, but they're not related to what we talked about today. They have other objectives, they achieve different things, they play a different role in the body. Oftentimes they're included in things like pre-workouts for certain other reasons. It's like, I think for the things we've talked about today and really these core benefits, just focus on something that just has the 9, because you don't want to be taking like multiple servings of those other ones. And if you're not taking them around exercise, what's the impact on them? Like essential amino acids, taking all 9 in the formula I'm about to describe, have hundreds of studies with women, also is really important, of all ages. They have young women athletes, middle-aged women, older women, like very senior citizen, over 75 plus year old women, like a lot of studies, and it's shown that it's safe and that it works and it provides these results. It's like buying something that's got arginine in it and it's like, well, how old are you? What's your activity level? Like I wouldn't go there. Another really important thing is, for amino acids specifically, don't buy a product that has a proprietary formula. So if they say, for example, 5 grams essential amino acids and they list them, but it doesn't tell you how much leucine, how much valine, how much lysine, don't buy it. That's not because I'm telling you that it's not a good product. I don't know, and neither do you. And the proportions of the amino acids really matter. They really do matter. And you want an exact proportion because it's been studied a lot by like many research scientists and across the board, and they've compared their studies to each other. They've iterated on it, and like we know now, like generally what is a good set of proportions. So if it doesn't tell you how much of each one, don't buy it. Then when you're looking at, well, how much do you want of each one? The simplest thing I'd say, and this doesn't mean you need to buy the Keon aminos. I'm out here to like educate. I mean, of course I'd love it if people did, but like look at the Keon aminos label. It's non-proprietary, tells you the exact proportions. Those are the proportions you want in a 5 gram serving. It's 40% leucine. And then the next 3, the isoleucine, valine, and lysine, they're somewhat close to each other, but basically all the other amino acids were based on the proportions that they are in human skeletal muscle. If we did a biopsy of human skeletal muscle, it's those proportions. But then the leucine is increased to 40%, and those other 3 are increased to maintain their original proportions and to not basically restrict the amount of protein synthesis that can occur. The percentages are like really weird and specific, so I feel like it'd be too complicated if I told everyone it, but like you look at the label and like you want that generally. And then you don't need many other ingredients. So the other ingredients should be pretty simple. If you're buying something that's flavoring, then it's got natural flavoring, it's some kind of natural sweetener, and it's pretty straightforward stuff. So make sure it's got all 9, make sure they tell you how much is in it, get a formula that's as close to whatever that Keon Aminos one is. You'll see the basic percentages of it. And then don't get something that has a bunch of other weird ingredients in it because you don't need other weird ingredients.
And if you want to look at the ingredients, you want to look at those percentages and kind of understand that, you can go to getkeon.com/keto for all those details. And on that page, you're also going to get 20% off. If you're like, well, Leanne likes this stuff, I'll just get what she really likes because I don't want to do all the research, because I did. So, hey, Angelo, thank you so much for coming on the show again. I learned so much from you. Your passion really comes through, and you're just great at what you do. So thanks for coming on.
Thanks, Leanne. I am so excited for you too, that you're such a, you're just so dedicated to not only sharing the information, but like your own personal training and working on the diet stuff and trying the aminos and having those changes, but then also going to Italy and having fun.
Oh, and so fun.
Yeah. And not making it be this thing that like makes everything fall apart. You like come back home and get back to your training and get back on the thing. And it's like, I really feel like that's a great model for people to build your health sustainably over time and also get to like take a break sometime and go to Italy and have fun. And so
eat all the pizza.
It's awesome. Yeah.
Thanks again for coming on.
Thanks, Leanne.
I hope you enjoyed our conversation with Angelo. Again, that link, if you want to give essential amino acids a try, the one that I personally use every day, it's getkion.com/keto. That's GETKION.com/keto to save 20% off. And if you're unsure of the link, just check out today's show notes. We'll see you back here next week. Bye. Thanks for listening to the Healthful Pursuit Podcast. Join us next Tuesday for another episode of the show. If you're looking for free resources, there are a couple of places you can go. The first to my blog, healthfulpursuit.com, where you're going to find loads of recipes. The second is a free parasite protocol that I've put together for you that outlines symptoms, testing, and resources to determine whether or not you have a parasite, plus a full protocol to follow to eradicate them from your life if you need to. That's available at healthfulpursuit.com/parasites. And last but certainly not least, a full list of blood work markers to ask your doctor for so that you can get a full picture of your health. You can grab that free resource by going to healthfulpursuit.com/labs. The Healthful Pursuit Podcast, including show notes and links, provides information in respect to healthy living, recipes, nutrition, and diet, and is intended for informational purposes only. The information provided is not a substitute for medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment, nor is it to be construed as such. We cannot guarantee that the information provided on the Healthful Pursuit Podcast reflects the most up-to-date medical research. Information is provided without any representation or warranties of any kind. Please consult a qualified health practitioner with any questions you may have regarding your health and nutrition program.